You know, some teams are remembered for winning, others for tragedy. But what if a team is remembered for both? That's the story we're diving into today. The story of Grande Torino, a name that's just synonymous with unbelievable triumph and, well, unimaginable loss.
So, this was Grande Torino. We're talking about the unstoppable Italian champions of the 1940s. These guys weren't just a team, they were legends, true immortals, who didn't just play the game, they basically defined an entire era of football. And then, just like that, in a single, horrifying moment, they were gone. The entire team wiped from existence in a plane crash that would go down in history as the Superga air disaster.
But, to really get the sheer scale of this loss, we've got to go back, right back to the beginning. We need to talk about the architect, the man who designed this footballing dynasty from the absolute ground up. Okay, so the man behind it all, Ferruccio Novo. And look, this guy wasn't just some wealthy owner throwing cash around, no way. He was a former player himself, a really shrewd administrator with a crystal clear vision. He wanted to build a champion, and he was going to do it by studying the most successful clubs in England. So, starting in 1939, Novo gets to work. First, he signs this young talent, Franco Assola. Then, he uses the stagnant wartime market to his advantage, snapping up key players like Gabetto and Menti. He was patiently, meticulously assembling his dynasty, one piece at a time. But here's the thing. Novo knew it wasn't just about buying great players. Not at all. He knew he had to change the way the game itself was played. He needed nothing short of a tactical revolution. And this is where things get really interesting. See, at the time, Italian football was all about the metodo, a super defensive, counterattacking style. Novo, he basically threw that whole playbook out the window. He embraced the English Sistema, which was way more dynamic, way more aggressive. The absolute heart of this new system was the WM formation. It was first made famous by the English club Arsenal, and the genius of it was stacking the midfield with 4 players instead of the usual 2 or 3. And what does that do? It gave Torino just this unprecedented control over the most critical area of the pitch. Okay, so to make this whole system click, Novo needed 2 final pieces. And the story of how he got them is just incredible. After a really tough loss to their rivals, Venezia, he does something you just don't see. He marches straight into their locker room and buys their 2 star players, Valentino Mazzola and Ezio Loic, right there on the spot. I mean, can you imagine? They were the final cherries on the cake. So was it effective? Oh yeah. The new system was so dominant, it just left opponents completely baffled. This quote from the president of Bologna says it all. After his team got thrashed 4-0, he was heard screaming at his players, totally desperate for an answer to stop Torino's midfield. I mean, that's when you know you've really changed the game. All right, so with the team now complete and their new tactic absolutely perfected, Grande Torino was ready. They were about to begin a run of dominance that would cement their place in history forever. And their reign was so profound that not even World War II could stop them. And this was a brilliant move by President Novo. He actually had his players classified as essential factory workers for FIAT. What did that do? It protected them from being sent to the front lines.
Okay, so just how dominant are we talking? We'll get this. In the 1947-48 season, they scored 125 goals. 125. That's a league record that, by the way, still stands today.
And they didn't just win the title that year, they won it by a staggering 16-point margin. 16 points. I mean, that isn't just winning, that's complete and total domination. And to top it all off, they did it by winning 29 of their 40 matches. Think about that. For all intents and purposes, they were basically unbeatable. It all added up to 5, count 'em, 5 consecutive championships, which tied the all-time record held by their city rivals, Juventus. And just look at those goal numbers, season after season. They were an absolute unstoppable offensive machine. But their influence went so far beyond just club football. I mean, for a while there, they effectively were the Italian national team. You look at a match in 1947, and 10 of the 11 players on the field for Italy were from Torino. 10 out of 11. A single club was literally carrying the hopes of an entire country on its back. And you have to remember the context. For a nation that was still recovering from the absolute devastation of war, this team was everything. They weren't just footballers, they were a symbol of national pride, of resilience, of rebirth.
So their final season was shaping up to be another totally dominant campaign. But a celebratory friendly match in Portugal, that trip would set the stage for a tragedy that would change everything forever.
So on the journey home, just minutes away from landing back in their home city of Turin, the plane flew into this incredibly dense, disorienting fog. We're talking visibility near zero. The pilot was essentially flying blind.
And then, at 5:05 p.m., the unimaginable happened. The plane slammed directly into the Basilica of Superga, a church perched on a hill overlooking the city. Everyone on board, the players, the staff, the journalists, gone in an instant. This crash became a moment of profound national trauma. Can you imagine? Nearly 1 million mourners filled the streets of Turin for the funeral.
The club had lost everything. And in what has to be one of the most heartbreaking scenes in sports history, it was Torino's youth squad that had to play out the remaining games of a championship their fallen heroes had already won for them. So it leaves you with the question, right? How does a team become more than just a memory? Well, Grande Torino is remembered not just for the titles or the revolutionary tactics, but for what they represented. They were hope. They were rebirth for a nation that was rebuilding from absolute ruin. Their story really is one of ultimate triumph and ultimate loss, all wrapped into one. And that is what makes their legend truly eternal.